Hana Kim stepped off the transport ship and immediately felt like she had made a terrible mistake. The Galactic Combat Academy stretched out before her like a massive metal ring floating in space. Through the transparent dome above, she could see stars she had never seen from Earth. Around her, alien beings of every size and shape moved through the arrival bay. Some had 4 arms, some had scales that glowed, others floated in the air without touching the ground. She was so small compared to them. So ordinary, so human. A creature that looked like a walking mountain with 6 eyes turned to look at her. It made a sound that her translator chip converted to laughter. The sound made her stomach twist. She gripped the handle of her single bag tighter and kept walking forward. She would not turn back. She could not turn back. Her brother Minho had died so that humans could have a chance out here among the stars. She would not waste that chance. The orientation hall was enormous. Hana found herself standing in a group of about 200 trainees from 47 different species. She was one of only 3 humans in the entire academy. The other 2 humans stood far away from her, looking just as nervous as she felt. The academy had accepted thousands of applicants, but only these 200 had passed the initial tests. Now the real training would begin. Instructor Vral entered the hall and the room fell silent. He was a Korthan, which meant he stood nearly 9 feet tall and had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was dark red and covered in patterns that looked like old battle scars. His eyes swept across the trainees with the look of someone who had seen 1,000 battles and expected most of these students to fail. "You are here because your species believes you are warriors," Vral said. His voice was deep and loud enough to shake the air. "Most of you are wrong. Most of you will leave this academy in shame. Some of you will leave in body bags." Hana felt her heart beating faster. Around her, the alien trainees stood straighter, as if the threat excited them. She tried to copy their confidence, but knew she probably looked terrified instead. Vral continued. "We will test your strength, your speed, your ability to survive. The galaxy is at war, and we need soldiers who can face any enemy. We need warriors who will not break when the shooting starts." A trainee near the front raised one of her multiple arms. She was tall and covered in blue scales that seemed to shimmer. "Instructor, when do we begin combat training?" "Now," Vral said. The floor beneath them suddenly shifted. Hana stumbled as the ground opened up and everyone dropped into a lower chamber. She landed hard on a padded surface, the impact knocking the air from her lungs. Around her, other trainees landed on their feet easily, as if falling 30 feet was nothing special. Some had wings that slowed their descent. Others had multiple legs that absorbed the shock. Hana pushed herself up slowly. Her knees hurt. Her shoulder hurt from where she had landed wrong. Already she was injured and training had barely started. "Pair up," Vral's voice boomed from speakers around the room. "You will spar with your partner. Show me what your species can do." A shadow fell over Hana. She looked up and saw the blue-scaled trainee standing above her. The alien was at least 7 feet tall with muscles that looked like they could crush stone. Her eyes were cold and yellow like a snake's eyes. "You are human," the alien said. The translator made her voice sound smooth but unfriendly. "My name is Jiwan Lee. I am Velkari. We are warriors born for battle. What are you?" Hana stood up even though she only came up to Jiwan's chest. "I am also a warrior," Jiwan laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "You are prey that learned to use tools. Your species barely left your planet before you stumbled into our galaxy. You do not belong here." Before Hana could respond, Jiwan moved. The Velkari was fast, much faster than something that large should be. A fist came at Hana's face. She managed to dodge, but barely. The second strike hit her in the ribs and sent her flying backward. She crashed into the padded wall and slid down to the floor. Pain exploded through her chest. She could not breathe. Her vision went dark at the edges. Through the haze, she saw Jiwan standing over her again. "Stay down, human. This is not a place for weak things." Something in Hana's mind snapped. She remembered Minho's last message to her, sent just before he died in the battle above Earth. He had told her that humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but humans never stopped. Humans never gave up. Hana forced herself to stand. Her legs shook. Her ribs screamed in pain, but she raised her fists and faced Jiwan again. "Again," Hana said through gritted teeth. Jiwan's eyes widened slightly, showing something that might have been surprise or respect. Then the Velkari attacked again. This time Hana tried to block instead of dodge. The impact shattered through her arms and knocked her down again. She tasted blood in her mouth. She stood up again. Jiwan hit her again. And again. Each time Hana went down. Each time she got back up. Around them, other pairs were fighting. Some were evenly matched. Others were completely one-sided, but none of those losing trainees kept getting back up the way Hana did. Finally, Instructor Vral's voice called out, "Stop! Training session complete." Hana collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. Everything hurt. She was pretty sure at least 2 ribs were cracked. Her left eye was swelling shut. Blood dripped from her nose onto the training mat. Jiwan looked down at her with an expression Hana could not read. "You are tougher than you look, human. But toughness will not be enough here. In 30 days we face the elimination trials. If you cannot win fights, you will die." The Velkari walked away, leaving Hana kneeling in a pool of her own blood and sweat. Medical drones arrived and scanned Hana. They determined she needed immediate treatment and lifted her on a floating stretcher. As they carried her toward the medical bay, she saw Instructor Vral watching her. His forearms were crossed and his expression was unreadable. In the medical bay, human doctors patched her up. They told her she had 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, and extensive bruising. They told her she should rest for a week. They told her that maybe the academy was not the right place for her. Hana said nothing. She stared at the ceiling and thought about Minho. She thought about all the humans who had died in the First Contact War, fighting against aliens who thought humans were nothing. She thought about how Earth was still seen as a weak planet full of weak people. She would prove them wrong. Even if it killed her, she would prove that humans belonged among the stars. When the doctors finally left her alone, Hana pulled up a holographic display and began studying. She watched recordings of the other trainees fighting. She analyzed their movements, their strengths, their techniques. If she could not beat them with strength, she would have to find another way. 30 days until the elimination trials. 30 days to become good enough to survive. She got to work. 3 days after the sparring session, Hana was back in training. Her ribs were wrapped in medical bandages that helped her bones heal faster. The bruises on her face had turned purple and yellow, making her look like she had lost a fight with a truck. Some of the other trainees stared at her when she walked past. Most of them looked surprised that she had come back at all. The training schedule was brutal. Every morning started with physical conditioning and different gravity levels. Hana struggled through exercises that the other species found easy. While a Korthan could do 100 pull-ups without breathing hard, Hana could barely manage 10. While a Velkari could run for hours without stopping, Hana had to rest after 20 minutes. But she noticed something the others did not seem to care about. She noticed patterns. She noticed that the Korthan were incredibly strong but moved in predictable ways. The Velkari were fast and fierce but always attacked head-on. The floating Zephyr species could move in 3 dimensions but had weak defenses if you could actually reach them. Every species had advantages. Every species also had weaknesses. Hana started keeping notes on her datapad. She recorded everything she observed about how different aliens fought, moved, and reacted. At night, when the other trainees were resting or socializing, Hana studied her notes. She watched training videos over and over, looking for patterns. On the 5th day, someone sat down next to her in the dining hall. Hana looked up from her datapad and saw a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis made of crystal. The translator chip identified her as Kyra Ven, a glassborn from the planet Chardis. "You are the human who keeps getting back up," Kyra said. Her voice through the translator sounded like wind chimes. "The other trainees talk about you." "I am sure they do," Hana said, returning her attention to her food. "The academy food tasted like paste but provided all the nutrition a human body needed." "They say you are either very brave or very stupid," Kyra continued. "Jiwan Li says you will not survive the elimination trials." "Jiwan Li does not know everything," Hana said quietly. Kyra made a clicking sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "No, she does not. I watched your sparring session. You lost badly, but you learned. I saw you adjusting your movements each time you stood up. That is more than most do." Hana looked at the glassborn with new interest. "You really watch that closely?" "I watch everything closely," Kara said. "It is how my species survives. We are not the strongest or the fastest. We are observers. We find the weak points." Her crystalline eyes seemed to sparkle. "I think you and I are similar, human Hana Kim." Over the next week, Kyra became something like a friend. She pointed out things about the other trainees that Hana had missed. She explained the politics of the academy, how some species had alliances while others had ancient feuds. She helped Hana understand that strength alone would not determine who survived the trials. On the 10th day, a new human arrived at the academy. His name was Doyen Choi, and he was not a trainee. He was a military strategist sent from Earth to advise the human students. He was older than Hana, maybe 40, with gray in his hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. When Hana met him in one of the private training rooms, he studied her for a long moment. "You look like him," Doyen said finally. "You have Minho's eyes." Hana went very still. "You knew my brother?" "We served together," Doyen said. His voice was rough, like the words hurt to say. "He was my friend. He died saving my life during the battle over Seoul. I owe him everything." Hana felt tears threatening but pushed them down. She had cried enough for Minho. Now was the time to honor his memory by succeeding where so many expected her to fail. "Teach me," Hana said. "Teach me how to survive here." Doyen smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I will teach you something better. I will teach you how to win." The lessons began that same day. Doyen did not try to make Hana stronger or faster. Instead, he taught her to think differently. He showed her recordings of human soldiers in combat against alien forces during the First Contact War. The videos were classified, not shown to the general public. Hana watched in amazement as human fighters used tactics that the aliens never expected. They used traps and ambushes. They fought dirty, targeting weak points instead of meeting strength with strength. They adapted constantly, changing their approach based on what worked and what did not. "This is the human advantage," Doyen explained. "We are not specialized. We are generalists. We can adapt to anything. Every other species in the galaxy evolved to be perfect at one thing. Humans evolved to be okay at everything, which means we can become whatever we need to be." Hana began applying these lessons in training. When she sparred with a Korthan trainee, she did not try to match his strength. Instead, she stayed at range, using quick strikes to his joints and backing away before he could grab her. When she faced a Zephyr, she did not chase them through the air. She used the environment, forcing them into corners where their mobility meant nothing. She started winning small matches, not many, but enough that other trainees began to notice. Even Jiwon Lee seemed to pay more attention to her. 15 days before the elimination trials, Jiwon cornered Hana in the equipment room. "I challenge you to an unsanctioned match," Jiwon said. "No instructors, no rules. Just you and me." Unsanctioned matches were technically forbidden but happened all the time. They were a way for trainees to settle disputes without interference. They were also incredibly dangerous because there were no safety protocols. Hana knew she should refuse. Jiwon was still much stronger and faster, but she also knew that running from this challenge would confirm everything the Velkari believed about humans being weak. "Tonight," Hana agreed. The lower training bay, word spread quickly. When Hana arrived at the training bay that night, she found at least 50 trainees gathered in a circle. They wanted to see the human get destroyed. They wanted confirmation that humans did not belong at the academy. Kyra appeared next to Hana. "You do not have to do this." "Yes, I do," Hana said. Jiwon entered the circle from the other side. The Velkari looked confident, almost bored. She probably thought this would be quick. The fight began without ceremony. Jiwon charged forward the same way she had in their first match. But this time, Hana was ready. She had spent 2 weeks studying Velkari fighting patterns. She knew that Jiwon always led with her right fist. She knew that the Velkari always followed up with a left hook. Hana dodged the first strike and ducked under the second. While Jiwon was off balance, Hana struck at the Velkari's knee. It was not a strong hit, but it was precise. Jiwon stumbled. The crowd went silent. Jiwon roared and came at Hana again, faster and angrier. For 5 minutes they fought, and Hana used every trick Doyen had taught her. She stayed mobile. She targeted joints and weak points. She used Jiwon's own strength against her, dodging at the last second so the Velkari's strikes hit walls and equipment instead. Hana was losing. She was taking damage with every exchange, but she was also landing hits. She was making Jiwon work for the victory, and most importantly, she was still standing. Finally, Instructor Vral's voice boomed through the bay. "Stop this immediately." Both fighters separated. Hana was bleeding and exhausted. Jiwon was barely hurt but breathing hard and looking at Hana with an expression that was no longer dismissive. Vral descended into the training bay. all four of his arms crossed. He looked furious. Unsanctioned matches are forbidden. Both of you will face discipline. But as the instructor turned to leave, Hana could have sworn she saw the smallest hint of approval in his eyes. That night, as Hana lay in the medical bay again, Doyon visited her. "You did well," he said. "I lost," Hana replied. "No," Doyon corrected. "You survived. And you showed everyone here that humans do not break easily. That is a kind of victory." Hana closed her eyes and let herself smile despite the pain. 15 days until the elimination trials. 15 days to get even better. She was starting to believe she might actually survive this. The announcement came exactly 15 days before the trials were scheduled to begin. Commander Resk, the Academy's stern leader, appeared on every screen throughout the station. His species, the Draconids, looked like humanoid dragons with scales of deep purple. When he spoke, everyone listened. "Trainees," Resk began. "The elimination trials will test everything you have learned. There will be 3 challenges. Each one will take place on a different world. Each one will be deadly. Trainees who fail will be sent home. Trainees who perform poorly may not survive to go home at all." Hana felt her stomach drop. She had known the trials would be dangerous, but hearing it stated so plainly made it real in a way it had not been before. Resk continued. "The first trial begins in 2 days. You will be transported to the storm world of Tempest Prime. Your objective is simple. Survive for 72 hours and reach the extraction point. You will work in teams of 10. Team assignments are now posted." Hana checked her datapad and found her team assignment. She recognized a few names. Caravan was on her team, which was good. A Korthan named Borak was also assigned, which was less good since Korthan generally disliked humans. The other 7 names were unfamiliar. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Doyon helped Hana study everything known about Tempest Prime. The planet was a nightmare of extreme weather, with storms that could peel the skin off most species. The native predators were adapted to hunt in these conditions and considered everything else food. "Stay with your team," Doyon advised. "Do not try to be a hero. Your job is to survive, not to impress anyone." But Hana knew that just surviving would not be enough. She needed to prove she belonged here. The transport to Tempest Prime was uncomfortable. All 10 team members crowded into a small dropship. The Korthan Borak made it clear he thought having a human on the team was a liability. "Try not to die in the first hour," Borak said to Hana. "I do not want to waste time dragging your corpse." Hana said nothing. She checked her equipment one more time. Each trainee was given basic survival gear and a weapon of their choice. Hana had chosen a simple combat knife. Most of the other trainees carried energy weapons or advanced tech. They looked at her knife choice with confusion. The dropship hit the atmosphere of Tempest Prime and immediately the ride became violent. Wind hammered the hull. Lightning flashed outside the windows. When the ship finally landed and opened its doors, a wall of rain and wind slammed into them. Hana had never experienced weather like this. The rain felt like needles against her skin. The wind was strong enough to push her backward. She pulled up her hood and followed the team into the hostile environment. Within the first hour, they lost 2 team members. One was a flying species who tried to scout ahead and was caught by a wind shear that smashed him into a cliff. The other stepped on something that looked like solid ground but turned out to be a camouflaged pit. By the time they realized what happened, the trainee was gone. Borak took charge, using his size and strength to push through the storm. The team followed in his wake. Hana stayed in the middle of the group, conserving her energy. She noticed that while the stronger species were making faster progress, they were also getting tired more quickly. Fighting against the storm was exhausting them. On the second day, they encountered the native predators. The creatures looked like wolves made of rock and storm clouds. They moved through the weather as if it did not exist. They attacked fast and without warning. The team fought them off, but they lost another member. A zephyr was dragged away into the darkness before anyone could help. Hana managed to stab one of the creatures in the eye with her knife, driving it back. Kyra pulled Hana to safety before another predator could attack. "Thank you," Hana gasped. "We protect each other," Kyra said simply. By the 3rd day, the team was down to 6 members. Everyone was exhausted, injured, and running low on supplies. The extraction point was still 20 kilometers away. Borak wanted to push through without rest, but several team members were barely able to walk. Hana studied their surroundings. They were in a canyon that provided some shelter from the worst of the wind. There were caves in the canyon walls. We should rest here for a few hours, Hana suggested. Recover our strength before the final push. Borak turned on her. We do not have time to rest, human. The trial has a time limit. We have 12 hours left, Hana argued. The extraction point is 7 hours away at our current pace. If we rest for 3 hours and then move faster, we will still make it. If we keep going like this, some of us will collapse before we arrive. The other team members looked between Hana and Borak. Finally, a trainee from a species Hana did not recognize spoke up. The human is right. I cannot continue without rest. Borak glared but finally nodded. 3 hours. No more. They sheltered in one of the caves. Hana took the first watch while the others rested. She sat at the cave entrance watching the storm rage outside. Her body ached. Her clothes were soaked through. She was colder than she had ever been in her life. But she was alive, and she was going to make it to the extraction point. When it was time to move again, the team felt stronger. They made better time, moving with purpose instead of just struggling to survive. When they finally saw the extraction beacon in the distance, Hana felt relief flood through her. They were not the first team to arrive. Several other groups were already there, waiting for transport. Hana saw Jiwan Li among them. The Valkyrie looked surprised to see Hana. Hana's team loaded onto a transport ship. As they lifted off from Tempest Prime, Hana looked out the window at the storm world below. She had survived the first trial. Back at the academy, Commander Resk announced the results. Of the 20 teams that started, only 14 had made it to extraction. 63 trainees had failed or died. Hana's team had arrived with 6 members, which was average. Several teams had arrived with 8 or 9 members still alive. One team had only 3 survivors. The second trial begins in 5 days, Resk announced. This time you will face the tactical siege on the fortress world of Ironhold. Prepare yourselves. Hana returned to her quarters and collapsed on her bed. Every muscle in her body hurt. She was covered in bruises and scratches, but she had survived. Doyen visited her the next day. I watched the tracking data from your trial. You suggested the rest stop that probably saved your team. Borak did most of the work, Hana said honestly. Leadership is not about doing everything yourself, Doyen said. It is about knowing when to act and when to advise. You are learning, Hana. Your brother would be proud. The second trial came too quickly. The teams were reorganized, and this time Hana was placed with completely unfamiliar trainees. Their objective was to breach a heavily fortified position, defended by automated weapons and security systems. Most teams would try to use brute force to break through the main gates. Hana had a different idea. During the planning phase, she studied the fortress schematics. She noticed that the ventilation system had openings large enough for a human to crawl through, but too small for most other species. She proposed a plan. While the larger team members created a distraction at the front, she and 2 smaller trainees would infiltrate through the vents and disable the defenses from inside. The team leader, a massive armored creature, laughed at her suggestion. You think you can succeed where strength will fail? I think I can get inside where you cannot fit, Hana replied calmly. They tried it her way. While the main force attacked the front gates, drawing all the automated defenses' attention, Hana and 2 other small trainees slipped into the ventilation system. It was cramped and dark and terrifying. At any moment, the security systems could detect them and flood the vents with poison gas or fire. But Hana kept moving forward. She navigated through the maze of tunnels, following the schematics she had memorized. When they reached the central control room, she used her basic technical training to hack the security console. The fortress defenses shut down. The main force breached the gates and captured the objective while the defenses were offline. Hana's team was the first to complete the trial. When they returned to the academy, Instructor Vral was waiting. For the first time since Hana had arrived, he spoke directly to her. That was clever thinking. Trainee Kim, you used your weakness as a strength. Thank you. Instructor, Hana said. Vral's expression was unreadable. The third trial will not reward cleverness. It will require you to fight. Are you prepared for that? Hana met his eyes. Yes, Instructor, but inside she was terrified. Because the third trial was the arena of champions, and she knew what that meant. She would have to fight for her life. The Arena of Champions was a massive coliseum that could hold 500,000 spectators. It orbited a dead moon visible from a dozen systems. When the trials were broadcast, beings from across the galaxy watched to see which new warriors would rise and which would fall. Hana stood in the preparation chamber, checking her equipment. The rules for the arena were simple: single combat against progressively stronger opponents. Win and advance. Lose and go home. Taya never leave. She had won her first 3 matches through speed and tactics. Her opponents had been skilled but predictable. She had studied their patterns and exploited their weaknesses. But with each victory, the next opponent became more dangerous. Her 4th match was against a Zephyr warrior who moved like liquid wind. Hana barely won, taking a deep slash across her shoulder that required immediate medical treatment. Her 5th match was against a Korthan who nearly crushed her skull before she managed to stab him in the armpit where his armor had a gap. Now she stood in the medical bay, being patched up again. Through the walls, she could hear the crowd roaring as other matches took place. The medical staff worked quickly, sealing her wounds with advanced technology that would have seemed like magic on Earth. Doyen entered the medical bay. His face was serious. "The next match announcement just came through," he said quietly. Hana looked up at him. "Who am I fighting?" "Titan Overlord Krax of the Gorath species." The room went silent. Even the medical staff stopped working and stared. Hana felt her blood turn cold. Everyone knew about Krax. He was undefeated in 84 matches. He had killed 14 opponents in the arena. No human had ever faced him. No human had ever faced anyone like him. "Can I forfeit?" Hana asked quietly. "Yes," Doyen said. "No one would blame you. Krax is considered one of the most dangerous warriors in the known galaxy." Hana closed her eyes. She thought about Minho. She thought about all the humans watching from Earth who needed to see that their species could stand among the stars. She thought about every alien who had laughed at her, dismissed her, told her humans were too weak to matter. "No," she said, opening her eyes. "I will fight." Doyen nodded slowly. "Then we have 1 day to prepare. Let me show you everything we know about Krax." They spent the next 20 hours studying. Krax was 12 feet tall and covered in bio-armor that was nearly impossible to penetrate. He was strong enough to lift a shuttle. He was fast despite his size. He had fought every type of warrior and defeated them all. But Hana watched every second of footage they had. She studied his movements. She looked for any weakness, any pattern, anything she could exploit. Late that night, a message came from an unexpected source. It was from Kyra Ven. "Hana, I accessed restricted medical files on the Gorath species. Their inner ear structure is sensitive to certain sound frequencies. I am sending you the data. It may help. Be careful, my friend." Hana studied the information. It was a small weakness, barely worth noting. But it was something. She began forming a plan. The day of the fight, Earth's entire population seemed to be watching. In the preparation chamber, Hana could see the broadcast numbers. Over 8 billion humans were tuned in. The pressure was enormous. A human woman appeared on the communication screen. Her name was Suyun Kang, a scientist from Earth's military research division. "Hana, we have been monitoring your biometrics throughout the trials. Your body is operating at dangerous levels of stress and damage. If you fight Krax, there is a high probability you will die." "I know," Hana said simply. "Then why do it?" Hana thought about her answer. "Because someone has to. Because every human who comes after me needs to know it can be done. Because I made a promise to my brother." Suyun's eyes were sad. "Then I will tell you this. We ran simulations. Your only chance is to make him disoriented in the first minute. If the fight goes longer than 5 minutes, your body will give out. Be fast, be smart, and may whatever gods you believe in protect you." The screen went dark. Hana walked into the arena. The roar of the crowd was deafening. 500,000 beings cheered and jeered. Lights blazed down from above. The arena floor was a circle of sand and stone, roughly 200 feet across. Then Krax entered from the opposite side. He was even larger than the videos had shown. His bio-armor was dark purple and looked harder than steel. His arms were thick as tree trunks. His eyes were small and black and utterly without mercy. In one hand, he carried a blade that crackled with energy. The crowd went wild. The starting signal sounded. Krax charged forward immediately, faster than something that large should move. Hana dove to the side as the energy blade slammed into the ground where she had been standing. The impact created a crater. Hana rolled and came up running. She could not let Krax get his hands on her. She grabbed a piece of broken equipment from the arena edge, something left over from a previous match. She hurled it at Krax's head. The Titan batted it aside effortlessly. For the first 3 minutes, Hana just tried to survive. She dodged and ran and used every bit of the arena. Krax pursued her relentlessly. His strikes came fast and precise. Each one would have killed her instantly if it connected. Hana's body was screaming. Her old injuries from previous matches were opening up again. Blood ran down her side from her shoulder wound. She was getting slower. Krax caught her with a backhand blow that sent her flying into the arena wall. She hit hard enough to crack the stone. Her vision went black for a moment. She heard the crowd roaring, some cheering for her death. She thought she heard Minho's voice, his last words to her. "We do not have to be the strongest. We just have to never stop." Hana forced herself to her feet. Krax was walking toward her, confident. Why should he not be? He had already won. This was just a formality. But Hana had one last trick. She grabbed a piece of metal debris and began striking it against the arena wall at a specific rhythm. The sound created a frequency that resonated through the arena. She had practiced this in her mind 100 times during the night. Krax stumbled. His hand went to his head. The frequency was affecting his inner ear, just like Kyra's data had suggested. Hana did not hesitate. She ran forward using the last of her strength. As Krax tried to recover, she slid under his guard. She grabbed his own energy blade from his weakened grip. With everything she had left, she swung at the joint in his arm where the bio-armor was thinnest. The blade cut through. Krax's arm fell to the arena floor, severed clean. The Titan roared in pain and shock. He fell to his knees, staring at his missing limb in disbelief. Around the arena, 500,000 beings fell silent. Hana stood over the fallen champion. She was covered in blood, barely able to stand, but she was standing. She reached down and picked up Krax's severed arm. It was heavy, almost too heavy to lift. She turned toward the viewing stands where the instructors and commanders sat. She tossed the arm to the center of the arena. It landed with a wet thud. Hana looked directly at the viewers, at the cameras broadcasting to the galaxy, at every being who had ever doubted that humans belonged among the stars. Her voice was rough and broken, but it carried through the arena speakers loud and clear. "Who's next?" The arena erupted in chaos. Some beings cheered. Others screamed in outrage. On Earth, 8 billion humans watched in stunned silence as one of their own stood victorious over a galactic legend. Hana collapsed to her knees. Medical drones rushed onto the arena floor. As they lifted her onto a stretcher, she saw Krax being attended to by his own medical team. The Titan was staring at her with an expression she could not read. As Hana's vision faded to black, she allowed herself to smile. She had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, she had won. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer a question. It was a fact, written in the blood and determination of one stubborn trainee who refused to give up. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Hana woke up 3 days after the fight. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Her entire body felt like it had been broken and put back together, which was not far from the truth. The doctors had repaired a fractured spine, internal bleeding, and severe trauma to most of her major organs, but she was alive. Doyen was sitting in a chair next to her bed. When he saw her eyes open, he smiled with relief. "Welcome back," he said softly. "You scared everyone." "Did I win?" Hana asked. Her throat was dry and her voice barely worked. Doyen laughed. "Yes, Hana, you won. The whole galaxy watched you defeat Titan Overlord Krax. The video of you asking who's next has been viewed over 40 billion times across every species' networks." Hana processed this slowly. "What happens now?" "Now you recover. And then the Academy holds a graduation ceremony. You passed the trials, Hana. You are officially a qualified galactic warrior." Over the next 2 weeks, Hana healed. She received visitors she never expected. Kyra came every day, bringing news and keeping her company. Instructor Vral visited once, standing awkwardly in the doorway before saying, "You have proven your worth, Trainee Kim. I was wrong about humans." Even Jiwan Lee came to see her. The Velkari warrior stood at the foot of Hana's bed for a long moment before speaking. "I apologize," Jiwan said stiffly. "I judged your species based on ignorance. You have shown me that strength takes many forms. I would be honored to train alongside you in the future." Hana was too surprised to respond immediately. Finally, she said, "Thank you. I would like that." The most unexpected visitor came on the 10th day. Medical staff wheeled Krax into her room. The Titan's missing arm had been replaced with a cybernetic limb. He looked smaller somehow, less intimidating without his arena presence. The medical staff left them alone. For a moment, neither spoke. "I have fought for 30 years, Crax said finally. His voice was deep and rumbling. "I have defeated every type of warrior in the known galaxy. I thought I had seen every trick, every strategy, every possible way to fight. I am sorry I hurt you," Hana said quietly. Crax made a sound that might have been laughter. "Sorry? You gave me the first real challenge I have had in a decade. You defeated me fairly. There is no shame in losing to a true warrior." He held up his cybernetic arm. "This will remind me never to underestimate an opponent again. You have taught me a valuable lesson, human Hana Kim. For that, I thank you." Crax stood to leave but paused at the door. "The galaxy will test you now. Everyone will want to see if your victory was luck or skill. Be ready." After he left, Hana stared at the ceiling for a long time. She had not thought about what would come after the trials. She had been so focused on surviving that she had not planned for actually succeeding. 3 weeks after the fight, Hana was well enough to attend the graduation ceremony. It was held in the main assembly hall, with representatives from across the galaxy present. Of the 200 trainees who had started, only 73 were graduating. Hana was one of them. Commander Resk presented each graduate with their warrior's mark, a symbol that allowed them to serve in the Galactic Defense Force. When Hana's name was called, the entire hall stood in silence. She walked to the stage, still moving carefully because of her injuries. Resk looked at her with his dragon-like eyes. "Trainee Hana Kim, you have exceeded every expectation. You have shown that humanity deserves respect and recognition among the galactic community. You graduate with highest honors." The warrior's mark was a small crystal that would be implanted in her hand. It would identify her as a qualified warrior anywhere in the galaxy. As Resk performed the implantation, Hana felt a strange sense of completion. She had done what she came here to do. After the ceremony, Hana was approached by dozens of officials. They offered her positions in military units, advisory roles, political appointments. Earth's ambassador, a man named Jihun Nam, asked her to return to Earth as a hero and symbol of humanity's strength. It was overwhelming. Hana asked for time to think. That night, she sat in her quarters and looked at a message from Earth. It was a video from a young girl, maybe 10 years old, named Unji-Oh. The girl was practicing martial arts in her backyard, trying to copy moves she had seen Hana use in the arena. "When I grow up, I want to be like you," the girl said to the camera. "I want to show the galaxy that humans are strong too." Hana watched the video 3 times. She thought about all the young humans who would grow up knowing that their species had proven itself. She thought about Minho and all the soldiers who had died to get humanity this far. She thought about what mattered most. The next day, Hana told Ambassador Jihun her decision. She would not return to Earth immediately. She would not take a political position or become a symbol. Instead, she was accepting a position at the Academy as an instructor, specializing in asymmetric warfare. "I want to teach," Hana explained. "I want to prepare the next generation of human warriors, and I want to teach other species that there are different ways to be strong." Jihun looked disappointed but nodded. "Earth will support whatever decision you make. You have earned that right." 3 months after her fight with Crax, Hana stood in a training hall at the Academy. In front of her were 15 new human trainees freshly arrived from Earth. They looked nervous and excited and terrified, just like she had been. But they also looked determined. Because they had seen what Hana accomplished. They knew it was possible. "My name is Instructor Kim," Hana said. "I am here to teach you how to survive and succeed in a galaxy that will underestimate you. I am here to show you that being human is not a weakness. It is an advantage if you know how to use it." One of the trainees raised a hand. "Instructor, is it true you defeated Titan Overlord Crax?" Hana smiled. "Yes, and I will teach you how to do the impossible too. But first, you need to understand something important. You will never be the strongest species. You will never be the fastest or the most durable, but you can be the smartest. You can be the most adaptable. You can be the ones who never give up." She walked along the line of trainees. "The galaxy is full of warriors who rely on natural advantages. You will have to rely on your mind, your will, and your refusal to accept defeat. It will be harder for you than for any other species, but that difficulty will make you better." The trainees stood straighter, ready to begin. Over the next months, Hana built a reputation as a tough but effective instructor. Her methods were unusual. She taught tactics that other species had never considered. She emphasized creativity and adaptation over raw strength. Her students learned to win fights they should have lost. And in the evenings, Hana would sometimes visit the arena where she had fought cracks. She would stand in the center where she had tossed the Titan's severed arm and asked who was next. That moment had changed everything. Humanity was no longer seen as a weak species that stumbled into the galaxy. They were seen as warriors, as equals, as beings who could stand alongside any other species and hold their ground. One evening, as Hana stood in the empty arena, she received a message. It was from a new alien champion who wanted to challenge the Academy's best fighters. Hana read the challenge and smiled. She forwarded it to her best student, a young woman who reminded her of herself when she first arrived. "Handle this," Hana wrote. "Show them what humans can do." She thought about Minho and hoped he could see what his little sister had accomplished. She had not just survived the Academy, she had changed it. She had proven that humanity belonged among the stars, and she was just getting started. The galaxy had asked who was next. The answer was simple. Every human who came after her, standing on the foundation she had built, ready to show the universe what determination and courage could accomplish. Hana Kim had started as the weakest trainee in the Academy. She ended as a legend, and her legacy would inspire generations to come.